This is Ryan Finkelstein, the host of Locked On Mets, bringing you maybe the most memorable podcast of my lifetime. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I woke up about 45 minutes ago, I think, because I had to pee. I was staying at my cousin's house, and I just happened to see that my phone had blown up a little bit and didn't know what was going on. The New York Mets signed Carlos Correa. Wasn't he already signed? So, basically just left my cousin's house. I'm in a parking lot. Let's bring you an edition of Locked On Mets.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What the heck just happened? The New York Mets have signed Carlos Correa, the free agent who had previously signed with the San Francisco Giants. I mean, what? We're going to discuss it, but before we do, I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on Twitter at FinkelsteinRyan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. I'm blown away, everyone. I am absolutely blown away. I was sleeping in bed. I think the last tweet I maybe had fired up, there was two of them, and they're both ironic. The first one, I took a shot at Jon Heyman because, again, he could not stop firing shots at Jacob deGrom. And another petty article that he put out there, and I said, look at this guy. I don't even remember exactly what I said. Something along the lines of him being the smallest man on earth because he just continues to fire unnecessary shots when he doesn't have to. And then suddenly, Jon Heyman is my best friend. I apologize, John. I love you so much. Thank you for having that great relationship with Scott Boras to bring the Mets news of the century. At least that's what it feels like right now, and I'm recording this at 5 o'clock in the morning. Carlos Correa is a Met? Like, what? We know the Mets made a pursuit for Carlos Correa, and they showed up late, quote-unquote. Well, maybe that late arrival continue to linger in Correa's head and in Scott Boras' head. And then when he is in the process of finishing his 13-year, $350 million contract with the Giants and taking a physical, they see something in his medicals that they don't like. And they say, you know what? Keep your $350. We'll take $315. A little bit of a haircut, one last year. And we'll go and we'll play baseball for the New York Mets and try to win a championship. It's insane. Again, I'm to paint a real picture for you. You know, I'm as most of you know at this point, I'm on vacation. I have my sister's family in the Chicago area. I have some cousins, my aunt, all in the Indiana area. So I was taking a day trip today on Tuesday, and I was leaving on Wednesday to visit the rest of my family. And I'm staying in one of my cousin's houses, and you wake up to go to the bathroom, you see this tweet, and I'm just thinking, what's happening here? What do I do? My cousin actually works construction, so he was up and about to head out too. So I said, dude, I think I'm just heading out with you because I got to figure out how to do a podcast here, and I don't want to wake up your girl upstairs. So here I am. I'm in a Goodwill parking lot, which is a little bit ironic because there's a lot of Goodwill in Metsville right now. This is insane. They signed Carlos Correa now, and to dive into the specifics of the contract and all that, we can do that at a later date. The Mets just created the best infield in baseball, without a doubt in my mind. I don't even have to try to think about who else is out there because I look at third base, and you have a platinum gold glove winning shortstop in Correa, who played an awesome third base in the World Baseball Classic. I'm not positive at this juncture if both he and Lindor agreed to play for Puerto Rico again. But if they did, they get to work on that infield defense just like they did in the World Baseball Classic years ago in the upcoming tournament to prepare for a regular season where they get to be teammates once again. Lindor has to be thrilled. One of his best friends in baseball comes aboard his team. And these guys, that's now the face of your Mets. The New York Mets, as much as you love Pete Alonso and Jeff McNeil and Brandon Nimmo and all that, the new face of your team is Francisco Lindor. He was already there. He was already the face. But this locks it in even more because now his good buddy's playing next to him, and for the next 9 seasons, you have those two, and Correa stays a little bit longer with a 12-year deal. That's nuts. Now, also on the other side of the infield, you have a batting champion in Jeff McNeil, and you have the guy that's led Major League Baseball in home runs since he made his debut in 2019, Pete Alonso. How's that for an offense? Oh, yeah, I mentioned Brandon Nimmo. You brought him back on an 8-year deal. Well, he can bat leadoff, and you can have your entire starting infield bat 2 through 5. So, at this point, I mean, off the top of my head, I'd say you go Nimmo, you go Lindor, Correa, Alonso, McNeil, 1 through 5. What does that mean for the rest of your lineup, the bottom half there? Well, you got Starling Marte and Mark Canha, so Marte probably bat 6th on this team. Canha might bat 9th to turn the lineup over. You got Narvaez and Nito at catcher. You got Alvarez in the wings now. Take your time, Francisco. The Mets got the offense covered until whenever you're ready to actually start behind the dish. Brett Baty, thought he was going to be a starting third baseman. Nope. I tweeted this out. Brett Baty went to sleep at third baseman. He woke up knowing that the entire left side of the infield is locked up for a decade. Better go start taking some fly balls, Brett. You're a left fielder now. And that's now the upside of this team. I've been spending so much time Michael Conforto out the window. Doesn't matter. He's gone. Poverty thinking for me to think about a 1-year deal. Yeah, he was the best name on the market, but we thought Correa was off the market. I mean, now again, Baty, you're an outfielder. Ronnie Mauricio, you're not playing third base either. You're an outfielder. Suddenly the Mets have some depth in their system in the outfield because these infielders have to play the outfield or they got to get traded. Which also means the Mets now have more capital to trade because, again, that left side of their infield is locked up for a freaking decade. I am so excited that I'm not tired at all at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I am just going to wrap up this podcast in a Goodwill parking lot and go on my merry way back up to Chicago and drive to my sister's house. Before we get to me leaving and closing out the show or me making that drive and everything else, I do have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, they have those for you at BetOnline. It is always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. The Mets were previously plus 900 to win the World Series. Last time I checked, you had the Astros at plus 600, the Dodgers at plus 750. Do they move to even money with the Dodgers after the Correa signing? I think so. Maybe the Astros stay ahead of them because they're loaded and they're in the American League and they got a clearer pathway. But the Mets just made themselves the clear favorite in the National League East. So if you want to bet on their pennant chances, their World Series chances, head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in the action. Bet online, where the game starts. This is a complete, all-in, F you to everybody, I'm Steve Cohen move. This is his masterclass. And you can say, buy a championship. Of course he is. It's a damn near $400 million payroll. It might be there now that they made this signing. I haven't checked yet. It's 5 o'clock in the morning and people haven't done the math for me. And I don't know how to do luxury tax. I mean, with luxury tax, it was already a $400 million payroll. Steve Cohen's probably paying $500 million to bring you New York Mets baseball this year that can go out and win a championship. Thank you, Steve Cohen. Thank you. Unbelievable. And I know that you know, other fan bases say, oh, there was a medical issue, and so the medical issue, the Giants are being the smart franchise. You know what? The Mets don't have to worry about that. They don't. If Steve Cohen makes a bad decision like this, which is not a bad decision, let me make that clear, but if we find out Correa breaks down, well, you know what? It's Steve freaking Cohen. He'll eat the money, and it's not going to matter. It's not going to hamstring this franchise. It just means that, oops, he's going to have to pay more. We see this offseason. The guy's not going to want a loser. There's not going to be a rebuild with the Mets now. It's just not going to happen. It's not there. I understand that. As a Mets fan, should that be your problem? Hell no. It's not your problem. Go out and enjoy it. Go out and enjoy the fact that you have, Uncle Stevie providing you with this ball club that looks more like an all-star team than a real baseball team. And you know what? You look beyond the next couple years, right? You have the Verlander-Scherzer window. Well, now there's a longer window. It's the Correa-Lindor window. And you can build your lineup however you want around those two guys in the future. But right now, currently, in this very moment, all of that future stuff doesn't matter. What you're looking at is a team with the best infield in baseball. You add a bat that can hit 30 home runs for you next season if he's healthy. You know he's going to be a Gold Glove caliber defender at third base. You have no shifting anymore. Defense is more at a premium. Get two Gold Glovers and play them next to each other. And by the way, Jeff McNeil is great up the middle too. I mean, Pete Alonso, by far the worst defensive player on this team, and he's playing first base. So your defense is great. Your offense is loaded. You got speed. You got athleticism. I mean, Correa is, 28 years old? Carlos Correa? Let's do the good old-fashioned Fangraphs look up here, because there's no reason to really dive into the stats. We know what the guy brings, but, we'll get little things like, okay, age 28. They have yet to update that he's a member of the New York Mets. Come on, Fangraphs, what are you doing here? 13-year deal, that's not accurate. It's a 12-year, $315 million deal with the Mets, not the Giants. They don't have the Giants listed, so maybe they removed that, but they haven't got around to putting him in a Mets uniform. His last two seasons, his two contract years. With the Astros, 2021, played 148 games, won a Platinum Glove, hit .279, .366 on base, .485 slugging, 26 bombs, 133 WRC plus, measuring hitters based on a league average of 100 is weighted runs created plus, and that 133 mark makes him 33% better than your league average hitter. Drove in 92 that season. Plays a year in Minnesota. He missed some time with, I think it was COVID, and it was another injury that was not like a debilitating. I think he got hit in the hand. It was a hand injury or something like that. He definitely got hit by a pitch. So it wasn't an injury. It wasn't like a core muscle injury or anything with the legs. So he still made it to 136 games. Played, hit .291, .366 on base, identical from the season before. .467 slugging, 22 bombs, 140 WRC plus, 4.4 F4. Been worth 10.6 wins the last two seasons. I mean, you're getting a guy that can win an MVP. You had one in Lindor. If you want to call Alonso an MVP candidate, you can. You got now a third one in Correa. You got two horses atop your rotation that are future Hall of Famers. This team's loaded. This team is absolutely loaded. And you know what? I'll say it for Bernie Van Wagenen. Come get us. Come get us. As much as everyone wants to fawn over the Atlanta Braves because they've built this homegrown team, which is fantastic. And trust me, they are good, and they will be tough to beat this year. I'm not completely discounting the Braves. Because of their resources compared to the Mets, what did they do this offseason? Well, they took an area of strength at catcher, and they made it a little bit stronger in Sean Murphy. Trey William Contreras, one of those two catchers who was an all-star. They bring in another, and Murphy, and they improve defensively. Darno maybe is a DH now, and they feel good about that. All right, cool. Well, the Mets just got Correa, Verlander, Quintana, Senga, Nimmo back, Diaz back. Phillies got Trey Turner and Taijuan Walker. Great job, Dombrowski. Woo! Love to see it. Everyone's anointing the Phillies, the team to beat, because they went to the World Series and they went on a little run in October. Well, all right, you got Trey Turner and Harper to build around. The Mets got Lindor and Correa and money to spend every single year in between. The New York Mets have just completed their offseason. Now, they'll do more because it's Steve Cohen, it's Billy Upload, and they're nuts. But you look at the team now. We went through the bullpen after adding Adam Ottavino. They got five arms you love, right? They got Diaz, they got Robertson, they got Ottavino, they got Raley, they got Drew Smith, and they've added a ton of depth this offseason to really fill out that pen. Not to mention their starter depth will play into their bullpen with guys like David Peterson, Tyler McGill, and Joey Lucchesi. Rotation. You got Verlander, Scherzer, Senga, Quintana, Carrasco, with Peterson, McGill, and Lucchesi again as depth. Outfield. Brought Nemo back, you're set. Maybe the Mets need a fourth outfielder. One gripe you might have. Okay. They can figure that out pretty easily. One thing I'll say is Eduardo Escobar could see him traded now. $10 million around there. I think a team could definitely bite on that. You could clear him out of the way as much as Escobar was great for the Mets this season. I think with Guillorme in place to back up the infielders, with Beatty and Vientos, in the minors to factor in a DH and to also do a little bit of backup at the corners. I think Vientos more at first base than at third, but Beatty can be a backup third baseman this year. I could see Escobar sent out, or he's just an incredible luxury off your bench. And maybe you trade Daniel Vogelbach, you make Eduardo Escobar your DH to start the season, and you see when the kids are ready for a Beatty to come into the fold, for an Alvarez to come into the fold, for a Vientos to come into the fold. The Mets have little moves to make at their roster. Maybe there's a James McCann trade, Darren Ruff, Vogelbach. Again, I said Escobar. These are all pieces who can be moved around. The Mets roster now sits at 43, so they got to clear out some space. They got to probably clear some of those relievers they added throughout the offseason, like a Taylor Cecido or a William Woods or a Steven Riding, so whichever one of those guys they don't love. There's other things to be done, but at 5:20 in the morning, as I spent some time here just reeling on this news, the New York Mets, in my eyes, they're a World Series favorite. And again, just because it's fun, BVW, baby. Come get us. Come get the New York Mets with Steve Cohen and his $400 million payroll, not including luxury tax. Wow. That's going to be all for the most memorable edition of Locked On Mets in my time hosting the show, I think. The rest of the week, we'll be reacting to the fallout. So make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, @Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen every day. It's sure to be now. You can check out Locked On Sports Today on the Odyssey app or YouTube, wherever you get podcasts, to find out what's going on across the sports world.